And I don't know if I want to jump into putting everything on there yet. You know what? It's fine. Reason being, I don't want to paint just the nose. I want to kind of treat it like I would an actual painting, and that's building up from the whole thing and then painting subdivisions. So let's work with what we have here. So let's select this, go halfway to black, and just paint the shadows in without indicating form as much as possible, because we'll be doing that later. I'm just sort of squinting my eyes and looking at the areas that are darker and just putting that in. Okay, let's go ahead and paint on top of that. The first thing I'm going to do is imply the cylindrical shadow on the nose. Use the airbrush and grab that value and just go along the nose as if it's a cylinder. And then introduce the highlight real quick by selecting a lighter value. Not too light, we'll save the bright whites for later. Let's do this on top of the line work actually. Maybe lower the opacity a bit. Anyway, so that's the cylinder part. Let's go ahead and tackle the low poly sphere. So this side is going to be shaded. So is that. Let's actually make it darker underneath it so it stands out. Okay. And that being a sphere, it's going to have a little highlight there, but it's kind of going to get lost a little bit because it's blending in with this part of the geometry. So let's go ahead and leave it there for now, but then introduce the values here and then treat that in the end as a sphere as well. And just sort of ping pong your eyes back and forth. It gets much darker here. But as you're doing this, just keep in mind the geometry of rendering spheres, rendering cylinders, and sticking to that. And it'll be a mix of like that plus just matching what you're seeing. So highlight here, highlight there. And notice how, you know, there is a highlight here, and then here's like not the shadow side, but the almost mid-tone side, but that also happens up here. So it's almost indicating a cylinder. So let's go ahead and imply that as well. And let's bring back that highlight here. And we could blend it in later to make it all look nice and painterly. There's certainly a gradient coming from here towards that highlight. And the fountain umbrella thing up here is receiving a little bit of light too. I think, if anything, what this exercise will help you do is develop your ability to look at a reference and immediately just know the form of what you're looking at, rather than second guessing every time. But it takes practice and repetition. All right, let's go ahead and blend this in with the airbrush a little bit. I can go ahead and flip the canvas. Control Shift F for my hotkey. And that's something as a hotkey you can change in your own settings. I don't think there's a default for flipping the canvas as a shortcut. Now I'm just looking at the value groups. Cool. I think that's good enough for now as a placeholder. I think once we have all the other values in, we'll be able to really make this work. Let's go ahead and actually put this shadow in real quick. To really let that nostril stand out. Getting carried away. That's fine. When in doubt, just do a low poly version of it. Because right now, right there, I just kind of looked at this and imagined that there's just a polygon here, here, and there. And each one's going to be a different color. Or I'm sorry, value. Let's flip it back. Yeah. And one sort of like visual trick that I like to do is to help indicate the form of something is form following lines and hashes and brush strokes. So if this is a cylinder, I'm going to kind of draw these rounded shapes, rounded strokes that go along with the form, as if it's like a little quick wireframe study, but not quite, because it's thicker and not all the way around. Okay, we can go ahead and blend that in a bit. Definitely a shadow here that comes forward. All right, now we have a nose. Now we'll move on to the next facial feature.